Hey there guys. So today I thought I would talk about some of the things that I wish I knew before getting a service dog. Um, there are a lot of things that have changed my life, not for the better necessarily, or have made things a bit more complicated because I have a service dog. The benefits definitely outweigh the negative things, but for those of you out there who are considering getting a service dog or just curious about some of the things that people have to deal with having a service dog, it'd be nice to hear some of these things ahead of time just so that you prepare yourself. So the first thing, and one of the biggest issues for me, is that most of us have friends or family members who don't like dogs or are allergic to dogs or like dogs but think they only belong in certain situations. So that will become a problem. This dog is here to help you with your medical needs, help assist you live your life as normal as possible, as close as you could get to what the other people around you are living. It's there to give you independence. But for someone who doesn't know about service dogs or has never seen them or known someone personally with them, they really can't understand what exactly it is that the dog is doing for you. People who are a little bit more removed from your life and your health issues. Even some people who might be very close to you, they just can't understand how possibly a dog is helping you with your medical needs. And so there will be people in your life who are annoyed that you take a dog with you everywhere you go, that every time they see you there's a dog there, or they might even be somewhat grossed out or disgusted that there's a dog with you everywhere you go and that you're bringing a dog into places where they think dogs don't belong. Or it's almost like you're the person who brings your kids with you everywhere, like you can't have the same amount of fun because you always have this dog with you. A lot of interesting little things that go through people's head when you're the person with the service dog all the time. Unless they see that dog in action doing something to save your life, or see if they are able to see how much help that dog is giving you, their opinion won't really change. For me personally, I have family members who when I first started to integrate my service dog into my everyday life when she was completing her training, they seemed very understanding and accepting of it. However, I was also going through a major trauma in my life at the time, a major tragedy, and I think they kind of just appeased me at the time because they felt I was going through a lot and they were sympathizing with me. But as that time passed away from that, people started to express how much they were bothered by the fact that I had a dog with me all the time. So a lot of conversations were raised with, so do you think you could leave your dog home this time? Or do you have to have the dog with you all the time? Or don't you have someone who can watch the dog for you? And saying that to someone who uses a service dog as medical equipment is like saying to someone who has a walker or a wheelchair, your wheelchair, it kind of bothers me a little bit. It's like the wheels are dragging in dirt and making my floors dirty, and you know, the sounds that it makes and the way it looks, it kind of like upsets the people around us, and it's just not very convenient. So would you mind leaving your wheelchair home with you today? It's the same thing. Even though they cannot see the correlation, you would never ask someone not to bring their wheelchair, walker, or their cane with them somewhere because you know they have it because they need it. But when it comes to a service dog, and especially if you have an invisible illness, you will be asked not to bring your service dog with you in many situations. I've even had a situation where I dealt with the ignorant doctor who who actually was the initial doctor to give me my referral to get a service dog, but many years had passed and I wasn't seeing this doctor often. It was a primary care physician because I was seeing so many specialists. And then after not seeing him for about 2 years after I had gotten the service dog, I went in to see him again because all of my specialists were full or closed at the time. And he literally told me that I couldn't bring the dog into my doctor's office with me because he was allergic to dogs. And that is not an excuse they can give. Like, the dog wasn't going to touch him, it wasn't going to get near him. She knows how to go under. Usually she goes under a chair in a doctor's appointment. She would stay away from him. She could control how much she shakes in those kind of situations. But he literally was asking me if I had someone with me who could hold the dog with them in the waiting room. And I was like, I'm an adult who uses this dog for independence. No, I don't have someone with me who can hold the dog in the waiting room. I needed to see this doctor very badly for a referral for another specialist. So he ended up having me have someone in the billing department at that office hold my dog outside of the room as she whined because she didn't understand why we were separated, and she knows what her job is and she's supposed to be with me, and she's sitting there with someone she doesn't know. She didn't whine loud and it wasn't disruptive, but I could hear her, and it made me anxious to know that they put me in that situation. So I did end up filing a complaint against that doctor and getting a different doctor, but that is a situation you'll deal with. You'll come across doctors and medical professionals who don't understand why you have to have that dog with you, or just don't care. It's inconvenient to them, it might be unsanitary to them, or whatever the reason is, and they don't want your dog with you. That is easier for me to deal with than to have family members who are annoyed that I have the dog with me and ask me to put the dog in a kennel or leave it at home or things like that when we're doing something. That's a lot more hurtful, because I'm like, you know me, you understand, or you say you understand what I'm going through as far as my health goes, yet you ask me to leave my medical equipment home because you don't think it's necessary, because it doesn't look necessary to you. So I say, one thing you really want to prepare yourself with when it comes to getting a service dog is that it may drive a wedge between you and some family members, the fact that you have a dog with you all the time. I mean, if you are lucky and blessed enough to have only people in your family who absolutely love dogs and just love that you have a dog with you at all times, you're going to come into some issues where people are just bothered by the fact that you have the dog with you. And even the ones who are trying to be understanding and compassionate about it don't understand that the dog is supposed to be with you at all times. They think there are situations where you can just leave the dog at home. They truly just don't understand, and you need to give them analogies of things like walkers, wheelchairs, and canes, how you don't ask someone to leave it behind because it's not convenient or doesn't fit in the car or something like that, because if that's the case, then that person just can't go. So there's a lot of times where I have to turn down trips or family reunions or any kind of thing where I'm getting together with family if there isn't a situation where I can be there with my service dog. When I do go to people's houses, people I don't know, or if I'm supposed to be going to visit someone, I always ask ahead, hey, I have my service dog with me, is that going to be okay with you? If they say no, then I have to decline coming to whatever it is that I was going to go to, but I do ask ahead of time. I'm not going to just show up at someone's house with a dog and they may be severely allergic or have multiple cats that they're concerned about, or whatever the situation is. I definitely will ask first, but know that there may be a lot of situations that you aren't able to participate in because you have a dog with you. And yes, that's not fair, and yes, that shouldn't happen, but it is the reality. The other thing that I was surprised, I guess not surprised, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to deal with having a service dog is if you are a single person, unmarried, or don't live with family, if you are in a situation, a medical situation, or any situation where you aren't able to bring your service dog with you, like if I have to have any kind of procedure or surgery done and I can't have my service dog there with me, and even if I did, I'd have to have someone who knew her well enough to be with her while it was happening and remember to take her out to use the bathroom regularly. And it'd have to be someone who was constantly in my life. And when I was married, I did have someone there who was able to be with her anytime I couldn't be with her. But if you are a single person who doesn't have that kind of support, you have to make arrangements anytime that you have to go into some kind of situation where your dog can't be there. And when you put all this time and money into that dog's training and its well-being, it's hard to find someone you trust to take care of your dog, which I'm sure is the same dilemma that people have who have children and need to find someone to watch their children. But it's not something I thought I was going to have to deal with so much. When I first started having my service dog with me 24/7, at that time I lived in an apartment that had a backyard that had a doggy door, so I kind of just would have someone come stay over there and they could just hang out and watch TV or whatever they wanted to do, just as long as she knew that somebody else was there and she wasn't alone. However, in my current situation, she has to be let out on a leash outside to use the restroom, and I'd have to trust that that person is letting her out every 4 hours because she is prone to UTIs. So I'd have to really trust that person knows dogs well, knows when they're giving signs that they need to go to the bathroom, or are able to stay on a schedule to take her out often so that we don't end up having to take her to the vet for a UTI, and also is just going to actually take care of her and pay attention to her and remember to feed her and things like that. And I'm not surrounded by a lot of people who have dogs as pets, so if I need to do that, I'm probably going to have to use a service that has pet sitters, where these people are professional pet sitters and they know what needs to be done. Because if you leave your service dog with someone who isn't familiar with pets and having animals around, they may not be able to give your service dog the care that they need, so that they're able to stay focused and not lose any of the training that they've gone through, especially if it has to be through an extended period of time. And along with that point is, I never thought of what I was going to do when my service dog reaches the point of retirement. I don't know why. It wasn't something that crossed my mind that much in the process of getting a service dog, but I know that in the future, when it is time for my dog to retire, I have to make a choice between rehoming her with someone that I feel deserves her, or making sure I am able to keep her and take care of two animals, which for me is probably going to be pretty hard to do. But I know that this next time when I get a service dog, I want to go through a organization that trains the dog from a puppy, and then you get the dog as like a 2-year-old adult. And a lot of those programs require that you don't already have a dog in the home. So if that ends up being my situation, I would have to rehome her. And just the thought of having to do that is something that I have a hard time even considering. But it is something you have to think about, is how are you going to transition from one service dog to the next? Are you going to rehome your service dog? Are you going to have 2 dogs? And then making sure that your retired service dog still gets what they need while you're transitioning to a new service dog. The next thing that I never really realized was going to be an issue is other people's influence on your service dog and their training. So if you are living with other people and they are dog lovers or not dog lovers, and they are doing things that go against what your dog is being trained for, although they may be doing it out of love and they love the dog and they support the dog and they take care of the dog, but if they are doing things that are derailing the training, that could become a huge problem. And I found myself in that situation once, where just the people they loved my dog, but some of the things that they were doing were causing some of her training to struggle, because she didn't want to do the things that she was trained to do because she was forced to do other things, when I wasn't around. And so it's not something that you really think about that much, but I didn't really notice how bad the situation was until I moved out of that situation and she no longer had interference, and I realized how much the action and love and affection of others was interfering with her actual training. So now I know that I have to be a lot more strict with the type of interaction other people are able to have with her, so that it doesn't start teaching her habits that go against her training. Another thing that I do want to mention is having a service dog. It attracts a lot of attention. I am an introvert by nature, and I don't like attention being drawn to myself. However, having a service dog means that you're going to attract attention everywhere you go. So let's say normally you could just run into the grocery store, pick up something you need really quickly, be in and out in 10 minutes. That became an impossible task for a long time for me because I couldn't even walk through the front door of a store or any place without people stopping me and asking me so many questions about my service dog and why I have a dog with me, or wanting to talk to the dog or try to pet the dog and me having to explain why they can't do that. Like, I would literally run into Walmart and just to try to grab one or two things, but be in there for 30 or 40 minutes because in every aisle I walked in, I'm stopped by someone. It gets very exhausting, especially if you're already dealing with pain, so you're trying to get in and out. It just makes it a lot harder when people are literally stopping you and getting in front of you to stop you just to ask you questions. You try to be polite, and it's a really hard thing to balance. So if you're someone who deals with anxiety or social anxiety or anything like that, just know that having that dog with you, although they may be helping with those things, is going to attract a lot of attention. So be prepared for that. If that's something you cannot handle, having a service dog is not the answer for you, because you will attract so much attention when you're having a dog with you everywhere that you go. So that's something really to think about. You're really gonna have to practice how you decide to approach people who approach you or who send their kids to go pet your dog because they think that you're there for their personal entertainment, or for the people who are afraid of dogs and have a extreme reaction to seeing your dog. Like, I've been in stores where I'm walking down the aisle with my dog and someone turns the corner and suddenly notices my dog there and will jump and scream. Like, some people have a deep fear of dogs, and seeing it in public causes a dramatic reaction in them, and both me and my dog jump when that happens. And I've seen people who literally push themselves on the opposite side of the aisle with their back against the wall and just like in complete fear of this cute little dog because they're afraid of dogs. So you come across a lot of really interesting situations that you have to prepare yourself with. I think it is worth it 100%. She's added so much more to my life than any kind of stressors or any issues like that have come up. But it is something that you want to prepare yourself for. The last thing I would probably say was one of the biggest issues was I was very worried about dealing with the service dog community. The service dog community can be very harsh. It can be hard. So, and I've seen some pretty gnarly things go down between the service dog community. So I was very worried about even starting a YouTube channel, about posting about my service dog on social media, because I saw how the vultures can just descend when it comes to you doing something that someone doesn't agree with or doesn't think is correct or things like that. And I didn't know if I could handle that kind of criticism. So just knowing that even if you're just trying to be someone who is out there sharing your experience and what your life is like, there will be people out there who want to tell you that everything you're doing is wrong and your dog isn't a real service dog and all kinds of things like that. And it was something I was really concerned with. On that note, for those of you who feel invested in sharing with me your thoughts and your feelings and want to contribute towards this channel, I did recently change my channel name from Spoons and Paws to Summerz Spoons. So I did that because I felt like I don't post enough service dog material to make it seem like it's going to be service dog based. And also I felt like I wanted to distance myself from the service dog community because of some really bad things that I saw go down. And so I decided to try to switch my name away from being service dog based, even though that's what my life revolves around. So I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on that. Like, what do you think about the name Summerz Spoons compared to the name Spoons and Paws, and me making a change to protect myself against some of the harshness that can be out there with the service dog community? So I'd love to hear from you guys. Those of you who have service dogs, I'd love to hear from some of the struggles and some of the things that you've had to deal with having a service dog, and some of the reactions from the people around you, doctors, family, friends, things like that. And I'd also love to hear questions from those of you who are just curious and want to know maybe some other issues. There's definitely a lot more issues that arise, but these are the ones that I felt were a little bit more unique. Things are less expected. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. I'd love for any questions or just any comments, or you sharing any part of your journey or your story. To all of my fellow Spoonies out there, I'm always thinking about you guys and praying for you guys. I hope that you guys are finding rest and peace and happiness. And for all of the Spoonie supporters out there, thank you so much for your compassion and your support. And without you guys, most of us would not be able to have the fulfilling lives that we have. So thank you. All right, bye.